it willingly, but that didn't make it any easier to handle. But then, in her 50s, divorce. These things happen, of course, and no one should stay in a marriage that makes them unhappy, but it hadn't been what she wanted. To us, as children, it didn't come as much of a surprise. But to my mother, it seemed like the end of times. I remember watching with helpless teenage horror as she withdrew into herself, becoming a desperate, suicidal stranger. She had nothing, she said, and no one. Having spent her life following someone else around the world, she didn't know who she was anymore. But slowly, step by step, she started to wonder whether this personal tragedy might be a chance for yet another new life, this time of her own choosing. She had always wanted to work with Médecins Sans Frontières, ever since she first heard about them in the 1970s when she was a nurse in London. But back then, she'd never had a chance to do more than dream, to wonder, what if? Apprehensive, but ever practical, she figured out what steps she needed to take to be in a position to apply for a job with them. And then she started taking the steps, one by one, until there were no steps left. Stepped out of excuses, she applied for a job. And she got it. Since then, my mother has emailed me from the Central African Republic, Libya, Tunisia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Turkey, Colombia, Uganda, Nigeria. The list goes on. After a while, the missions blur into each other, apart from the moments of terror that stick out, when I can't concentrate on anything other than the latest news update. All I'm left with is that indefinable mix of pride and misgiving and pride that this woman, my mother, didn't let life defeat her. She didn't listen to a society that told her that a woman's life ends when the wrinkles appear and the children leave. She proved that, in fact, the end of one phase of a woman's life could mark the beginning of a whole new one. While the media is awash with venerable old men, it would have us believe that all women over 50 have retreated to the nuclear bunker built to protect us from the horror of a woman beyond the first blush of youth. There is a very simple explanation for this discrepancy. Men are fully human individuals. Women, in the words of Virginia Woolf, have served all these centuries as looking glasses, possessing the magic and delicious power of reflecting the figure of man at twice its natural size. Rather than being human ourselves, we are a foil to male humanity. And who wants a wrinkly foil? Do It Like a Woman is an antidote to a prevailing culture that tells women that they can only aspire to remain a foil for as long as their body allows, longer if they can afford Botox and eventually a good surgeon. It is an antidote to woman as imagined by a sexist culture and propagated in books, films, television shows and magazines where women are wives, sisters, girlfriends, crazed ex-girlfriends, victims, but rarely at the heart of the action. The famous Bechdel test for gender representation in fiction, films and TV is set at the absurdly low bar of having two named female characters talk to each other about something other than men. And even so, it is rare to find a film that meets these criteria. How, when, and whether we represent women matters. Negative representations instill women with stereotype threat, which means they perform badly in context where they are stereotyped as incompetent, not because they are incompetent, but because a portion of their brain is given over to the desire to disprove that stereotype, rather than to focusing solely on the task at hand. Simply reminding women of their gender has been shown to impair their performance in maths tests. Likewise, imposter syndrome has affected every successful woman I've met or read about. A woman can never quite believe her achievements are deserved, that she belongs at the top, that she can do it. On the positive side, the burgeoning field of role model research demonstrates the palpable impact role models can have on a woman. They can influence her academic course choices. They can radically alter her knowledge of political candidates and her likelihood of voting. They can transform her public speaking ability, enabling her to speak better and for longer. And they can even change her test scores, causing her to score higher than men who beat her in a test where she had no female role model, or a bad one. By denying women access to the achievements of women who have gone before them, we are condemning them to keep having to leap over the same hurdles, while men perfect their 100-meter sprint to the finish line of full humanity. This misrepresentation has to stop. We have to stop ignoring real-life women or reducing them to demeaning, inaccurate, two-dimensional stereotypes. There are women from our past whose achievements need resurrecting, but that task is for another book. And there are women in our present whom we must not ignore or allow to be forgotten. This book is about those women, what they do and how they do it. It is about how being a woman in a sexist society affects what they do.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.